This is Caring for Kids on News Talk 760 WJR. Presented by the Children's Foundation. And here's your host, President and CEO of the Children's Foundation, Larry Burns.
Thank you, Mark, and welcome to the April edition of Caring for Kids. We have a special show tonight due to the current crisis we are all experiencing. The Children's Foundation continues to reach out to our partners throughout the state to provide additional funding during the COVID-19 crisis. We will continue to reach out in the weeks and months ahead. Tonight, we're coming from the Burns studio of the Children's Foundation in lovely Grosse Pointe Park. And our guests are Dr. Robert Davies, the 15th president of Central Michigan University, Mark Hilinski, co-founder of Hilinski Hope, and Luanne Thomas Ewald, Chief Operating Officer of the University of Michigan's C.S. Mott Children's Hospital and the Voigtlander Women's Hospital. It's all coming up next on Caring for Kids here on the great voice of the Great Lakes, News Talk 760 WJR.
It's Caring for Kids with Larry Burns.
Robert Davies was unanimously appointed by the Board of Trustees to serve as Central Michigan University's 15th president and began his official duties on September 1st, 2018. Dr. Davies has more than 25 years of higher education experience, having served as president of Murray State University in Murray, Kentucky, and president of Eastern Oregon University. President Davies, welcome to Caring for Kids.
Thank you for all that you do for our communities.
So, President Davies, let's first talk a little bit about this current crisis we find ourselves in, and what's the current situation at CMU as it relates to your students, faculty, and staff. Can you give us an overview of that, please?
Yeah, with regards to the current situation, we are managing the situation as best we can and moving forward. We have set forward several standards, if you will, as we think about every decision and every meeting that we have on it. The main focus and goal is to keep CMU open and operational. That is our main priority, that we will keep operating and we will keep the university open, and that means serving our students as best as we can given the current environment. The goals and objectives of that is do everything we can to flatten the curve, focus in on the academic enterprise, which means having students progress towards their academic goals, as well as supporting the scholarship activities of the university, keeping our community, both our campus as well as our greater community, as healthy as possible, make decisions based on fact and data, as well as living up to our leadership standards, which is students first. And all of our decisions are based upon those efforts. I will say I'm extremely proud of the way that our faculty moved to remote learning literally within 2 days. Last year we had the polar vortex, and we had to cancel class for 5 or 6 days. And the faculty came to us and said, you know what, we need to have a system in place, a methodology in place, a mindset in place, that if this happens again, we can quickly move to remote learning so we don't have to cancel classes.
Great. We're talking with President Robert Davies from Central Michigan University. And what are you doing as a group to stay connected to students and possibly staying connected with one another when you can't go to the office like we normally do?
We, again, have empowered and engaged technology in very aggressive ways and new ways. We're doing a lot of meetings through WebEx. Our students are extremely adaptive through social media, through YouTube, and the like. I do have the honor and privilege of not only being president of the university, I also have the honor and privilege of being a parent of one of our students.
Yes.
Who was in the residential halls. She is now at home. Watching her continue to engage with her fellow classmates and roommates and residential hall mates, just being very creative. The Netflix group deal is a whole new deal that they were able to watch movies almost every other night all together through Netflix, even though one's in Detroit, one's in Chicago, one is obviously she's in Mount Pleasant. They have one in the Upper Peninsula. She actually invited 2 of her friends from Kentucky to join the group. So they're really creating this real sense of community and using this time to engage one another. Our faculty are doing the same thing. I just received a video from one of our dance professors who is teaching dance to a group of 10 students remotely. And, when you think of dance groups and everything else, how can you do dance without having everyone come into the studio? Well, she put together a video, and it was posted on social media this morning of how they did this amazing dance, and it has these movements that really show how these students, even though they are completely different places, are literally dancing together. And so the sense of creativity and innovation is coming forward.
That's terrific. I never thought at this point in my career, would become an expert in Zoom and teleconferencing, but I spend a lot of time doing that now.
I think, too, as you mentioned, our leadership team, we spend, obviously, a lot of time on the immediate decisions. We're now looking at the far decisions and the use of technology not as just as a commodity, but as a strategic differentiator for our university.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that I was in higher ed for 26 years, and we really tried to bring all faculty and others onto technology. Some came, as you mentioned earlier, some kind of resisted, and some were a little frightened by it. But this will cause all of us to come out of this better using technology, as you indicated, to its fullest extent. And so we will be stronger coming out of this. And I've been reading a lot about athletic departments and football maybe taking place in the fall, maybe not. And so do you have any sense of how this is impacting your great athletic department as it relates to all of your sports?
We have a wonderful athletic department, and the key thing with our athletic department, the leadership of Michael Alford and all the coaches have bought into the concept from day one that it's about the student athlete. And so right now they're paying a lot of attention to making sure that the students are maintaining their academic progress and moving forward along those lines. And it's just wonderful to see the interaction between all remotely and technology, but the support for student athletes and the way that they're handling the academic side, as well as continue to train individually for their sports. We follow the NCAA guidelines. We follow, I'm on a conference call with the Mid-American Conference presidents on about a weekly basis where we talk about not only the academic side but also the athletic side and what's going to be moving forward there. We're building contingency plans for all sorts of different makeups. Athletics is an important part of the American culture. We love to compete. We love to cheer on rivals. We love to have that experience. But we are also very attuned that we need to do this healthy and safely, and we will follow the guidelines of the MAC and the NCAA.
Great. And so on a lighter note, we're talking with President Robert Davies from my alma mater, Central Michigan University. And I mentioned it earlier on that we're developing a relationship with the Children's Foundation and your new relationship in Detroit with Children's Hospital physicians, your beautiful location on Woodward Avenue with the great CMU signage. And so what are some of the things you're most excited about when we get through this crisis as it relates to CMU in southeastern Michigan and then beyond?
Well, I think that the growth and the commitment that CMU has in Detroit is longstanding. It started back in the late 1960s, early 70s, and has ebbed and flowed over time. But with some of the recent hires and work we're putting into Detroit, really looking forward to that expansion of working with the K through 12 organizations, working with organizations and nonprofits, working with the business entities, and using that 777 Woodward as the hub for those activities to engage students, potential students, to be the home for students when they go back to Detroit, to be the home for students when they go to Detroit for the first time for internships and the like, to be the hub for businesses and organizations to connect with Central Michigan University, and the home for our alumni. We've got some just amazing momentum going in that area, and I know that even though they are working remotely now, developing partnerships with the PAL program and other nonprofit organizations to support efforts in Detroit. We will be there. We will be strong, and I look forward to getting back and being a leader in that area.
Absolutely, and I look forward to working with you on that, not only as a partner of the foundation, but as a proud alum as well. And so, President Davies, thank you for what you're doing. Thanks for your partnership with us at the Children's Foundation, and I look forward to actually being able to spend some time with you in the not-too-distant future.
Absolutely, and thank you for all you do, and as always, fire up chips.
Fire up, Chips. Thanks a lot. That was President Robert Davies of Central Michigan University. And coming up next, we're going to hear from Mott Hilinski about the work their foundation is doing, known as Hilinski's Hope. That's when Caring for Kids continues right here on the great voice of the Great Lakes, News Talk 760 WJR.
Welcome back to Caring for Kids on WJR, presented by the Children's Foundation.
Mark Hilinski is a co-founder and board member of Hilinski's Hope, a charitable foundation founded in 2018 to honor the life of his son Tyler, who died by suicide. Hilinski's Hope was founded to help other student athletes eliminate the stigma around mental illness and build awareness and programs to help care for their mental health. Mark, welcome to Caring for Kids.
Thanks, Larry.
Many people are very familiar with the story regarding your son Tyler, but in case there's some listeners that are not familiar with that, if you don't mind giving us a brief memory of your son Tyler.
I'd absolutely love to. We could be here for hours because there's so many great memories of Tyler, and thanks for asking. The story of how he passed is awful, and it's been told in a number of different ways. The reason we think it's important to us personally to talk about Tyler and to sort of share the kind of kid he was, but to the general audience, I think it's equally important to sort of know who Tyler was, because growing up with three boys and all of them sort of, very different personalities, but all the same, like a lot of our kids, Tyler was extremely kind. He was just one of those neat kids that you liked a lot. You love all your kids, but you liked Tyler a lot. I can't remember a day where I wasn't happy with him. And he seemed to be just in tune with the way people were thinking and what they needed, and he was a very caring kid at that way, and it came naturally. Tyler was just that really bright light in a room, and he did it very differently. Kelly and Ryan are very much A-type personalities, and Tyler was more the laid back, very interested in what you were doing and how your life was going, and always sort of pushed back any information about him and asked about the people he was with and the people he was visiting and so forth. So he was the most unbelievable young man, and of course we're all extremely distraught without him, but we're trying to carry on and honor him by helping others, and really, Larry, trying to replace, which is impossible to do, but replace the light that's gone from him by doing these good works that we're attempting to do.
Absolutely. And we're talking with Mark Hilinski from Hilinski's Hope. And so you mentioned Kim, your entire family. You've taken this tragedy, your loss, and you've turned it into something that is impacting lives every day. So tell us about the foundation and some of the things you're most proud of to date.
Sure. Hilinski'sHope.org, the website, and the foundation was founded a couple weeks after Tyler had passed. And the reason we put it together so quickly was that we had to sort of focus our energies on something that would help other people, because we were so unsure of what happened. We still are. And so if that can happen to Tyler, if Tyler can get depressed or anxious to the degree that he needed to take his own life to avoid that pain, and nobody in his immediate family, coaching staff, teammates, et cetera, saw that, then we felt like we owed it to the rest of the teammates and the student athletes out there to bring a light and really reduce the stigma by talking about it, and bring awareness by talking about the issue of mental wellness in our student athletes. And that is, you guys do such a terrific job every day, kind of getting your message out. And ours, although student athlete focused, it's not to exclude anybody. It's just more to focus where we think we have some impact. And we've been doing that for a couple of years now, visiting with the number, I think we're up over 40 or 50 schools in the country,
right,
colleges, universities, and even high schools to bring that story to them.
Yeah, and as you may not know, but I spent 26 years in higher ed, very involved with athletics, particularly at the University of Toledo, and one of my dear friends is the head athletic trainer, and he just tells me the percentage of student athletes that have mental health issues is beyond what the average person would ever dream of, and firsthand this, but there's at the University of Toledo there's maybe 500 athletes, and he just said the percentage continues to grow of those that need guidance, that need support. So that's what your foundation is doing. And what are some of the things that you're actually doing throughout the country, throughout your areas that impacts this?
Sure. There's really three programs that we're bringing to these universities and colleges and schools. We work with Step Up, which is a NCAA-approved bystander awareness program. So when the individual can't come forward, can't ask for help, we try to train their teammates and their roommates and their student-athletes at the school on how to spot and how to address some of the issues they may see that the person in trouble may not. I think that was really important in Tyler's case. But the research data sort of shows us that when a student athlete doesn't ask for help and ends up dying by suicide, they ask the nearest teammates and family members and so forth, did you notice anything? And the few that did were unsure how to address that with the person in trouble. So we teach that through Step Up. We bring that program to classes. There's another one called Behind Happy Faces. Ross Zabo, who's given a terrific TED Talk and has the book of the same name, Behind Happy Faces, actually gives instruction and has a curriculum built around how to teach us or the individual student athlete to deal with his or her own mental health issues. And he has a background in this, having gone through, and currently being treated for bipolar, attempted suicide, et cetera. And he's a terrific, engaging speaker. He's very good with the kids and is able to sort of impart to them, better coping skills, healthy coping skills for that matter, and when to recognize the difference between I'm sad because I broke up with my girlfriend, I'm depressed because I can't get out of bed for 2 weeks in a row. There's a difference between anxious and being, clinically diagnosed with anxiety. So that's an important facet. And we tell Tyler's story as an opening to sort of bring awareness and make people feel comfortable that if the family of Tyler Hilinski can talk about suicide and can talk about mental health, then we should all feel comfortable enough to do that as well. So those are the programs that we have today, and they've been successful in the places that we've gone based on the feedback, and we're capturing some of that data so we can study that to figure out, what needs to be added to that program.
Yeah, well, you're definitely making a difference. Without any data, that I know for sure. So now we find ourselves in this most recent health crisis, all of us. And I've been reading, since the Children's Foundation has a major focus on mental health and addiction and things related to mental issues. Now we find ourselves in this COVID-19, being isolated and maybe suffering from some mental issues, be it depression. So what have you learned, or what else are you trying to do in this odd time we find ourselves in?
Well, that's a great question, and thanks for asking. I think one of the things that we've learned through our travels among the schools and having student athletes ourselves is the kids, they sort of depend on the scheduling and, the formality, if you will, of what gets done from, 5:30 in the morning till noon. It's all football or baseball or their sport, and then in the afternoon it's all school, and then they try to squeeze in their social time and so forth. And without that structure, I think, Larry, what we found is the kids are left, obviously, with a lot of time on their hands and without a lot of guidance. And so for us, we think there's two things. One, in this downtime with COVID, it really does sort of force families together, and it gives you an opportunity to dig a little deeper under the covers to see how, your kids are handling the crisis that we're in, for sure, but just in their general daily lives. And if there's a way to sort of parlay those conversations into deeper mental health questions and offers of help to those that are in your family, you certainly can paint a picture that we're not afraid to talk about those things. I think that's an opportunity that we have during COVID, for sure. The other thing with Hilinski's Hope, what we tried to figure out was how to get that same message across. And we did develop a podcast hosted by Josie Nicholson. Dr. Nicholson is the sports psychologist at Ole Miss here in the SEC, and she has a number of partnerships and friendships and professional relationships around the country with people in her same group. So whether it's BYU and Ohio State, I think have been on already, University of California, Santa Barbara out in California, and others, they're taking one topic at a time. I think last time it was healthy coping skills and how to avoid, the idea that maybe finding other ways to cope in this downtime might be interesting or alluring to young men and women. and sort of the dangers of sort of wading into those waters. And so each episode sort of gives us a chance to address any or all of those different issues as the professional licensed mental health practitioners see them, and give some guidance. It's not a lecture series. It's not a anything but a conversation about student athletes and how to address their mental health, which obviously we're so focused on our physical health during this incredibly difficult time. We want to make sure that everybody's sort of in touch with their mental health as well, and the things that they can do to improve that is what we're trying to articulate in this podcast.
Yeah, great. So I have to ask you, I love following your son Ryan's career at South Carolina. How is he doing?
Oh, thanks. Ryan's doing okay. He's actually moved back in with us, so he's here at the house quite a bit. He's out speed training at the moment, where they can get, just a couple of people together in an open field. We're under sort of house arrest orders ourselves. This is considered exercise, and I think that's sort of important. But he's doing okay. I think like a lot of guys, Larry, they have Zoom meetings with their position coaches and with their teammates, and they try to stay in touch that way. They're all very supportive on social media of each other, and trying to be ready when the call comes to get back into their sport. But they also have to deal, and Ryan specifically, at least the part that I can see, he has to register for new classes and take online classes, obviously, and finish up his semester. So he's busy, but I can see that lack of structure sort of, it makes him uncomfortable. And I don't think Ryan's any different in it. So
right.
He's doing well.
Well, I have 3 nieces and nephews that are Gamecock graduates, so I'm a fan as well. So I look forward to watching his career as a quarterback for the Gamecocks. So
that would be great.
So one last question I'd like to ask folks that are involved in mental illness and suicide prevention is this show is mostly listened by moms and dads, grandparents versus college kids or high school kids. And so any quick advice for a mom or a dad or a grandparent that might have an inclination that their son or daughter is facing some things that they're just not sure what to deal with? Any advice?
Yeah, I sort of view in our position, Kim and I are we're without, our strongest kid and missing him deeply. I would say the advice that we give, constantly, and as we talk to friends and family, of course, is trust your gut on this stuff because, as you peel back all the layers, you certainly don't think that, in our case at least, you didn't see any signs that would lead you to believe that Tyler was struggling. But you did see other things, the calls that are a little shorter, the text messages that don't come as frequently, or when they do, they're very short-worded. And what we've learned and what we're sharing is those are the times to talk. Those are the times. Don't be afraid. Don't think you can, cause somebody to have a mental illness by asking about how they're doing, and to follow your gut instinct with the people you know and love the most, and bring this out. Have this conversation. Talk about the things you're concerned with and the things you're seeing and the changes. On the flip side, if I tell you that Tyler was the least likely person you would consider to be struggling mentally, that's the dichotomy for us. And so all we simply say is, if you see that going on, dig, don't wait, don't think it's going to get better on its own. It could be very innocuous and simply a phase people are going through, but talk, ask the questions, be specific, and don't let go.
That is great. And I always say, be invasive. I'd rather have someone get angry at me for asking too many questions than me saying to myself, I don't want to offend them. So it sounds
well,
like...
Larry, I'll leave you with this. We say at the end of all of these talks, if you're the person that your friends, family, teammates have come up and said, Larry, I'm worried about you, I care about you, I'm seeing these changes, talk to me a little bit, and nothing's wrong in your case. Be happy that somebody cares enough, loves enough, on you to ask those questions. So we encourage those same interactions on both sides so both people can get the benefit, and I think that's incredibly important.
Well, Mark, thank you for what you're doing. We look forward to seeing you. We were going to see you this April, but we're going to see you and Kim next April 13th, 2021, at our Behavioral Health Summit. So we look forward to that. And thanks for all you're doing. I'll continue to watch from afar on social media and other things. But thank you very much for being on Caring for Kids.
Look forward to seeing you next year, Larry. Thanks for everything, and call anytime. Stay safe out there.
That was Mark Hilinski, who is doing amazing work. You just heard that through the efforts of the Hilinski's Hope Foundation. Coming up next, we're going to hear from our friend Luanne Thomas Ewald from Michigan Medicine, and that's when Caring for Kids continues here on the great voice of the Great Lakes, News Talk 760 WJR.
Welcome back to Caring for Kids on WJR, presented by the Children's Foundation.
Joining me now is Luanne Thomas Ewald. Luanne is the Chief Operating Officer at the University of Michigan C.S. Mott Children's Hospital and the von Voigtlander Women's Hospital at the great University of Michigan. She began that role in January of 2020 after spending 27 years at the Detroit Medical Center. Luanne is a fellow in the American College of Healthcare Executives and also serves on several boards in the communities that she serves, including our very own Children's Foundation. And she's received numerous honors and recognitions from civic and professional organizations. Best of all, she is a great friend of ours at the Foundation and all-around wonderful person. Luanne, welcome to Caring for Kids.
Hi, Larry.
So we'll start out just talking about your new role at the University of Michigan. I mentioned that you started in January of this year, so it's only been a little over 3 months. Then we have the crisis hits. But let's start with how you're adapting to your new environment in Ann Arbor.
It is just an amazing group of people, the doctors, the researchers, the nurses. I'm just in awe of the things that they do every single day. Mott is a nationally ranked children's hospital, and just to be able to be inside and see the excellence every day has just been amazing. And as we entered this crisis, pretty early on when I started, I remember January 16th is when we started screening visitors, right? So the whole process was beginning, really just to see the dedication of the doctors and nurses and the security team. The security team is really on the front line as families and visitors come into the hospital. And as almost all hospitals across the nation have changed their visitor policy, and our security guards are at the front line trying to implement that policy for the safety and security of everyone. And we know in these times that that's very difficult. Most children's hospitals have a family-centered care environment where we encourage family participation and family visitation and sibling visitation and pet visitation. And, when we've had to go down to one parent at the bedside, and, it's been difficult. So our social workers, our security teams, our environmental service workers, really just to see everyone come together and really focus on these kids and these moms in the women's hospital has just been amazing. And we're seeing those stories every day in the media. And, I'm lucky I get to see them firsthand every day.
Great. And we're talking with Luanne Thomas Ewald, who's the Chief Operating Officer of Mott Children's Hospital and the Voigtlander Women's Hospital in Ann Arbor. And so I know that you're also expanded because of this crisis, some of your responsibilities to help the overall situation. Can you talk and tell our listeners a little bit about what U of M, what you're doing as it relates to not only the kids you mentioned, but also other adults you're taking care of?
Yeah, everyone is, jumping in to help. And the good news with all of this is that children are not really being impacted by coronavirus. The numbers are very, very small. And we have been very lucky at Mott. We have actually been in conversations with colleagues at Seattle Children's because they were hit first, right? So we're learning, they're about 2 months ahead of us. So we're learning from them, and it's very similar across the country that the numbers in kids are really, really small. So it's just been wonderful to see the physicians and the nurses on the pediatric side, really step up to help our adult counterparts when they can. And what we're doing now is, working with the Michigan Hospital Association, the state of Michigan, and others to really see if we need to also create more capacity within the state. So we know there's the TCF Center in Detroit. We know the Suburban Collection is in Novi, was just approved. And so we're working with all of the organizations in the state to see if there's another one that should be in Ann Arbor as well. So have been really working over the past couple weeks to really do that analysis, to look at plans to make sure that people in our state are taken care of when they need to be taken care of. We know the hospitals are overrun, so we are in the middle of trying to finalize some analysis on another location.
Gotcha. So the other thing I mentioned during the show is that the foundation is reaching out to many of our over 80 partners, and as you are well aware, since you're a trustee and one of our partners, you approached me last week regarding expecting mothers and the fact that they didn't have the ability or the access to go see their doctor as often. And so together with Mott and with the Children's Foundation, we purchased 200 blood pressure monitor devices for these expecting moms. And so do you have any sense how that's working out?
Yeah, so our team is continuing to distribute these blood pressure cuff monitors to our pregnant moms. We're trying to make sure that everyone is safe, and we're looking at different processes that could actually be done at home versus coming into the hospital. So something that's that was implemented a couple of years ago at Michigan Medicine was e-visits, so online visits. And as you can imagine, in March, those numbers really spiked. So it's really forcing us to look at processes that we do on a regular basis. But now that we're in this crisis, are there things like that could be done from home? And so having women monitor their blood pressure from home is one of those things. We're in, before this crisis, we were having them come into the office to do that. Well, that's something they can do from home. So that's why I reached out to you saying, hey, I think this is in this COVID crisis that we're in, if we can keep a subset of moms home, comfortable, and not having to expose themselves, into a hospital setting, this is wonderful. So the team continues to distribute the blood pressure cuffs. We're doing studies on it, so we'll have some wonderful outcomes. But it's going well. The moms are, very happy, as you can imagine. This is a stressful time for pregnant moms.
Yeah.
Not trying to stay away from the hospital at this point until they're ready to deliver is really our goal. So I want to thank the foundation for that grant. It is really going to make an impact.
Absolutely. And so as we emerge from this crisis, and indeed we will, and if you have any time to think about what you're really looking forward to in your new role, can you share with us some of the things that 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months from now that you're really looking forward to getting involved in your relatively new role at Mott? Yes,
we, last year, Michigan Medicine signed a partnership agreement with Sparrow. And so, really working within that partnership, making sure kids throughout the state and other parts of the state are being taken care of by, the wonderful Michigan protocols, Mott protocols. So really diving into relationship building with existing partners like Allegiance and Jackson and Bronson. So those are some key partners for us. And so really, trying to forge those relationships forward. And secondly, a really big component, Larry, that you and the foundation have been, helping to lead the charge on is really working with the Children's Foundation and with the state of Michigan and the Michigan Hospital Association and other partners. What and how are we going to help make an impact on adolescent and pediatric mental health in this state?
Right.
So those are the two big areas. We know that there's something big and bold needs to happen in that space, and really trying to focus on what those components are, who the partners are, where care is delivered, how care is delivered, and if we've learned anything through this crisis, the impact of e-health and telemedicine and telepsych care are those components that can really help us provide the care that our kids and adolescents need in the state of Michigan. And, I think that's our responsibility. I know, that's one of the main responsibilities for the Children's Foundation, and we have to find some answers.
Well, as you know, we're all about partners as well. So as you develop new partnerships, we hope to tag along a little bit as it relates to what we can do to help. And
wonderful.
You're absolutely right. When we get out of this, we're going to continue to focus on trying to solve the behavioral health crisis that we found ourselves in before. And most likely we're going to find ourselves in deeper because of this crisis. But we'll work together in coming up with some solutions on that. Well, thank you for all you're doing. Appreciate it very much. I know that the Children's Foundation Board is so delighted that you're a board member now, and you're in Ann Arbor each and every day, but you're still very much part of our family. So thank you, Luanne.
Thank you.
That was Luanne Thomas Ewald of the University of Michigan Mott Children's Hospital and the von Voigtlander Women's Hospital, all at the University of Michigan. Coming up next, I'm going to provide you an update on some of the Foundation's news. During this crisis, we've postponed some things. I'm going to fill you in on that. And it's going to take place right here on the great voice of the Great Lakes. News Talk 760, WJR. During these challenging times, the Children's Foundation remains committed to the important services that our more than 80 partners provide each and every day. We recently announced the launch of our COVID-19 emergency relief funding, which provides immediate aid to our community partners who are providing direct services to children and families. The funding is being used to assist these organizations with unexpected needs and costs so they can continue to support the communities they serve. Throughout the rapid development of COVID-19, our top priority has been to protect the safety and health of donors, staff, and our community. In response to this, we have decided to postpone 2 upcoming events. Derby for Kids will now take place on Saturday, September 5th at the lovely Country Club of Detroit. And our annual Child and Adolescent Behavioral Health Summit will now take place on April 13th, 2021. All of our other events scheduled for the summer and fall are currently still on schedule. As always, I want to thank you for tuning in to Caring for Kids and for your continued support. Lastly, on behalf of our trustees, our staff, and our partners, be safe, stay healthy. We will get through this together. And as I like to say, onward.
Caring for Kids with Larry Burns on WJR has been presented by the Children's Foundation.